This game key was provided by Selectaplay via keymailer for review purposes. Morkull Ragast's Rage is a 2D action platformer developed by Disaster Games, published by Selectaplay, and released on March 6 of 2025. Morkull Ragast's Rage is a game that had me intrigued at first. A hand-drawn Metroidvania where you play as a self-aware villain trying to reclaim his throne sounded like a fresh, chaotic twist of this genre's formula. But after spending time with it, I found myself torn between appreciating its unique ideas and feeling frustrated by its execution, as I wrestled with sluggish controls, unfair difficulty spikes, and a story that, while interesting at first, loses steam due to how long it takes to reach the next bit of meaningful narrative. You play as Morkull, the god of death and darkness, who has been kicked out of his own castle by Gallet. Your goal is to fight through enemies, find keys, and make your way back to reclaim your throne. Along the way, Morkull constantly breaks the fourth wall, cracking jokes about the developers and talking directly to the player. His constant awareness that he's in a video game means he's always making snarky comments. Sometimes I chuckled at some of his meta jokes, but other times the humor felt a little too juvenile or overbearing, like the game was trying too hard to be funny. If you enjoy characters like Deadpool or the Stanley Parable's narrator, you'll probably get a kick out of it. If not, you might find yourself rolling your eyes a lot. The controls are where Morkull Ragast's rage starts to unravel. On the surface, they're simple. You have light and heavy attacks, a shield for parrying, and a dash. You can also find new abilities out in the world or use souls from defeated enemies to upgrade your skills via a small skill tree. There are flasks for healing too, but unfortunately, everything feels a tiny bit sluggish and unresponsive. Parrying is a key mechanic that feels wildly inconsistent. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in a game like this, that's a deal breaker. The slow, awkward attack animations and weird hitboxes make combat feel clunky rather than satisfying. The Metroidvania style exploration is one of the stronger aspects of the game. Platforming, jumping, dashing, and backtracking with new abilities, feels decent, even if it's a bit watered down compared to the genre's heavyweights. This isn't a hardcore Metroidvania, but more of an entry level experience for newcomers to the genre. That said, glitches and inconsistencies frequently pull you out of the experience. One time, a key didn't spawn, forcing me to redo a combat gauntlet multiple times. Boulders got stuck in walls. Little bugs like these piled up, making progression feel more frustrating than rewarding. Speaking of frustration, the game's difficulty balance is all over the place. Some enemies go down in a few hits, while others can shred you in seconds. Normally, that wouldn't be a huge issue, but because of the Metroidvania style checkpoints, dying often means getting sent way back and losing a big chunk of the souls you collected. When combined with the sluggish controls and unfair deaths, it starts feeling more like a punishment than a challenge. It seems like if you had maybe one or two more hits you could take before having to restart, it may feel a tad bit more balanced and fair. The game's animation is genuinely impressive. The hand drawn frame by frame style gives it a rough, almost comic book like quality that sets it apart from the usual pixel art or 3D stylized Metroidvania titles. Sometimes it may seem sort of rough, with some animations only having a couple of frames, but I enjoyed that approach with it. While the early environments are a bit on the generic side, dark caves, lots of purples and blacks, later areas show off more creative world building that I wish had been present from the start. The hand-drawn animation is crisp, the character and enemy designs are striking, and the overall art style gives the game a distinct identity. The audio design also does its job well, keeping up the pace and the atmosphere, even though it sounds pretty generic. In the end, Morkull, Ragast's Rage is an interesting experiment that doesn't fully stick the landing. I appreciate its ambition, and I respect that it's trying to do something different with its self-aware storytelling. But the inconsistent gameplay, frustrating mechanics, frequent glitches, drawn-out pacing, and hit-or-miss humor kept me from truly loving it. If you're a hardcore Metroidvania fan or love games that mess with the fourth wall, it might still be worth a try. Just go in knowing that while Morkull rages, you might be doing a bit of raging yourself. I give Morkull Ragast's Rage a 5.5 out of 10.